This is part 3, episode 99. Problem. What problem? Hui Yuhao's voice instantly became a lot sharper. He hugged Wang Donga even tighter, not willing to let go at all. I have gathered her life energy, but it's still flowing away by itself, as if she's lost her spirit. However, I've already reassembled her spirit. This problem should stem from her own body, except it's been triggered by what she just went through. That's not something that I can deal with, so you'll have to think of another solution to sustain her life. Hui Yuhao had just received hope when these words fell into his ears and struck him like thunderbolts. Hui Yuhao felt like he was going insane. Calm down, calm down. I have to be calm. At a time like this, Hui Yuhao's training as an ultimate soldier came into effect. At least, Wang Donga was breathing, and there was life energy in her body. This meant that she was alive, and as long as Wang Donga was still alive, Hui Yuhao wouldn't be as disoriented and panicky like he was before. The Yin-Yang Life Querying Valley's mysterious entity mentioned that Wang Donga is experiencing this because of issues that originate from herself. But what's wrong with her body? A thought occurred to Hui Yuhao as he contemplated this issue. He suddenly recalled the secret letter that the Clear Sky sect leader, Niu Qian, and Tai Tan had given to him. Wang Donga mentioned afterwards that the contents of their letter were made up, and everything was meant to test him. However, if Donga's body is having its own problems, can it be? With this thought in his head, Hui Yuhao immediately retrieved the storage-type soul tool from Wang Donga's pockets that he had given her some time ago without any hesitation at all, and retrieved the yearning heartbroken grass that possessed mystical and miraculous powers. This herb had pristine white petals, and blood threaded through each one. This was the immortal herb that Hui Yuhao had almost paid his life to retrieve. A long time had passed, but this herb was still fresh, pristine, and filled with the energy of life. The yearning heartbroken grass had miraculous medicinal effects, and it could save any person's life as long as that person was still breathing. Yes, this herb will definitely save Donga. Hui Yuhao no longer hesitated as his thoughts stopped here, and he carefully placed the herb next to Wang Donga's lips. But he quickly realized that there was no way Wang Donga could eat this medicinal herb. With hope in his heart, Hui Yuhao's mind was especially agile and flexible. He instantly stuffed the herb into his mouth without any hesitation at all, and chewed it up into juice with a few chomps as he sealed his own throat. He wasn't about to let a single drop flow down his throat, and he lowered his head as he carefully poured the juice into Wang Donga's mouth. The yearning heartbroken grass was a little bitter, but there seemed to be a tinge of sweetness amidst that bitterness. Love was the same, bitterness and sweetness would always exist at the same time. Donga's lips were warm and tender, and kissing her was indescribably mesmerizing. Hui Yuhao carefully parted her rosy lips, and allowed every single drop of the herbal juice in his mouth to flow into hers. Hui Yuhao stared nervously at Wang Donga after he was done. He believed that what he had done was right, but how could he be confident of success before Donga was revived? Wang Donga's illness was something that not even the mysterious Yin-Yang Love Querying Valley could treat. Time continued to pass, and Donga's pretty face was still ruddy, looking very delicate and charming. Hui Yuhao had gently closed her beautiful eyes, and she seemed like a sleeping beauty laying in a deep slumber. Hui Yuhao was starting to feel threads of anxiety building up in his heart, when a faint aroma finally wafted up from Wang Donga's body. This aroma was very faint and plain, but it was exceptionally fragrant and refreshing. A vague layer of light could be seen circulating beneath Wang Donga's skin, and her body slowly began emanating a dense life energy. Did it work? Donga, Hui Yuhao looked up at the sky and asked nervously. You gave her a yearning heartbroken grass, didn't you? I didn't expect you to have an immortal herb like that. That mysterious entity seemed to sound a little anxious. Back then, Hui Yuhao couldn't be bothered with whatever else that voice wanted to say, and he hurriedly pressed the issue. Is she all right? The voice seemed a little dissatisfied, because Hui Yuhao had interrupted it. It answered plainly, she's full of life energy, so her condition is stable. However, her spirit is still messy and disorganized, and this condition isn't something that external forces can treat. She has to adjust her spirit by herself, so she can wake up. Hui Yuhao was momentarily stunned. What do you mean? She will be in a coma indefinitely. I have no idea how long she will remain in this state. She has to rely on her own strength to wake up, and it remains to be seen whether she has it in her to do so. All right, the two of you may leave. I will reward you, Wang Donga and Wang Chua, by raising your soul power by 5 ranks. You may go. No. Wait. Donga shouldn't have to die. This was just your test for her. You should be able to save her. Please let her wake up, let her wake up. Hui Yuhao shouted frantically, but no matter how much he yelled, the mysterious entity didn't entertain him at all. Intense golden light shone down on them and swept him and Wang Donga away as heaven and earth spun around them. Hui Yuhao and Wang Donga disappeared from this mysterious place just like that. Hexagonal light continued to flicker, and some mysterious, magnificent glyphs grew brighter and brighter. Is this what you wanted? Those 2 children are so pitiful. The voice that belonged to the Yin-Yang Love Querying Valley's mysterious entity seemed very upset. Another melodious voice could be heard. That's enough. I have my reasons. If they don't experience some winds and rain, I've fulfilled my duty. I'm going back. I'm going to look for your wife for a chat when I get there. HMPH. Golden light sparkled as Hui Yuhao reappeared with Wang Donga in his arms. When he could see his surroundings clearly, he realized to his surprise that the valley he was in was filled with people. Elder Xian, Xian Lina, and several elders from Shrek Academy, along with everyone else, were all here. There were scars and marks of battle around him. The valley's inner regions had been severely damaged, and it was evident that a great battle had just occurred in this place not too long ago. Elder Xian came to them in a flash when he saw Hui Yuhao appear with Wang Donga in his arms. He lifted his hands, and a thread of gentle soul power supported Hui Yuhao so that he could stand up straight. Everyone's eyes landed on Wang Donga, who was still in Hui Yuhao's embrace, at the same time. The other 5 members of Shrek's 7 monsters gathered around first. Bei Bei asked in grave concern, Yuhao, Donga. Hui Yuhao turned and looked at Bei Bei, and Bei Bei could see his fortitude and perseverance in his eyes. Donga is all right, she's just asleep. I want to take her home, perhaps only the people in her family have any hope of awakening her. I can't return to the academy for now, Elder Xian, Elder Xian placed his hand on Wang Donga's wrist to check her pulse, and a look of pleasant surprise flashed across his eyes. He had just heard from the others that Wang Donga was dead, but it was evident that Wang Donga was very much alive. However, she was in a coma for some reason. Don't be hasty, Yuhao. Tell us what happened. It's better if everyone can brainstorm together to think about how to save her. All right. Hui Yuhao wiped the tears off his face, and recounted everything that he and Wang Donga had gone through after everyone else had left. Everyone exchanged looks with one another as they listened to his story, but they were all a little lost and confused. Their experience in the Yin-Yang Love Querying Valley was truly quite an adventure, and everyone went through life and death before they managed to leave this place alive. With Hui Yuhao's initial reminder, nobody told any lies inside the valley. This was how everyone managed to escape unscathed, with the exception of Wang Donga. Elder Xian was the first to come out. He only heard that plain voice once, and it said, "You are too old, so you don't have to go through the sincerity adventure. You don't have any hope for love anymore, so you're allowed to leave." Elder Xian came out, and he coincidentally ran into several evil-titled Doluo, who were standing guard in this place. The great battle that happened afterwards was inevitable. Evil soul masters were powerful, but Elder Xian was also a formidable individual, and almost an ultimate Doluo. Elder Xian could unleash his full abilities, because he didn't have to protect anyone around him, and he relied on his incredible prowess to force those evil soul masters away. Everyone's faces didn't look so good at this moment. They had each had their own gains from Sincerity Adventure, but everyone had been taught a lesson, and everyone had been dealt a heavy blow. Wang Donga's current situation worsened everyone's mood. Who could be happy at a time like this? Several elders checked Wang Donga's body one after another, and all they could do was shake their heads repeatedly. Wang Donga's circumstances were just as the Yin-Yang love-querying valley's mysterious entity had said. Her body was normal, and she was full of life energy, while her soul power was stronger than before. She was 5 ranks higher than before, putting her above rank 66. However, the problem was in her spiritual sea. There was something very wrong with her spiritual sea. Her spiritual sea was sealed shut, and her spirit seemed to be undulating in a disorderly manner within her spiritual sea. The human brain had always been the most profound and mysterious entity. Not even Elder Xian dared to force his way into Wang Donga's spiritual sea, because her life would truly be lost if something went wrong. Everyone discussed it for a short time before Elder Xian said, "We've exited the Yin-Yang love-querying valley. This experience has been very strange and sinister, but at least everyone is safe and sound in the end. We should return to the academy as soon as possible. Yu Hao, you'll take care of Donga, and when we enter the Heavenly Soul Empire's borders, you can take her back to the Clear Sky sect so that her family can help treat her." Yes. Yu Hao was back inside his human-shaped soul tool at this moment, and could stand up once more. Soul power rippled in his body as well, but the difference between Wang Donga and him was that Yu Hao wasn't far from rank 60 now, after being given 5 ranks of soul power. He would become a soul emperor if he made another breakthrough. Yu Hao possessed an ultimate martial soul, and an ultimate martial soul's true strength and might could only be seen and realized after rank 70. However, every step to rank 70 was very difficult. Yu Hao had acquired many painful memories from his time in the Yin-Yang love-querying valley, but at least he had gotten some rewards in return. Elder Xin led the group, and Shrek Academy's various powerful individuals protected everyone else as everybody activated their flying-type soul tools and soared into the sky. They wanted to avoid any more conflicts with the Sun Moon Empire's powerful individuals, so they flew towards the west for a little while longer before they went around in a large circle towards the Heavenly Soul Empire. No matter how strong the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineers were, they couldn't scout and patrol every single inch of the Empire's borders. Everyone flew at full speed for a day and a night before they exited the Sun Moon Empire's borders and entered the Heavenly Soul Empire. Elder Xian made sure that they were safe before he took everyone to a relatively tranquil and remote forest. They descended into the forest, and Elder Xian instructed everyone to rest where they were. Yu Hao had been carrying Wang Donga this entire time, and he had even activated a protective soul barrier to protect her while they flew. Wang Donga was still in a very, very deep sleep. She seemed to have entered a peculiar state of hibernation, and her blood circulation became a lot slower after flying through the air for an entire day. However, her life energy was still exuberant, but she almost didn't expend any energy at all, to the point where it was almost undetectable. She resembled a winter animal that was hibernating for the winter. Yu Hao scanned her sealed spiritual sea with his spiritual power, but didn't detect any changes at all. Wang Donga's spiritual undulations had become exceptionally weak, but Yu Hao found it easier to come to terms with this fact. No matter what, Wang Donga's condition was relatively stable, at the very least. The other 5 members of Shrek's 7 monsters conscientiously circled around Yu Hao and Wang Donga so that they could protect them. Bei Bei heaved a faint sigh as he watched the grief that flowed from Yu Hao's eyes from time to time. He squatted down and patted Yu Hao on his shoulder as he carefully placed Wang Donga on a woolen blanket that had been laid out for her. Bei Bei said, "You don't have to be so depressed, Yu Hao. Donga will definitely recover. Everyone has absolute faith that she will recover. Remember to ask if she needs any exotic herbs of whatnot after you take her back to the Clear Sky sect, and the few of us will bring those things to you even if we have to risk our lives." Yu Hao looked up at Bei Bei. "Eldest senior brother, Donga will definitely recover. You guys don't have to worry about me, I'll be alright. I have to be even stronger, more resilient, and calmer for Donga's sake. I will definitely make her better. I'll take her back to the Clear Sky sect after a little while, and I'll meet you guys back at the academy when Donga has recovered. Alright. Send us a letter if something happens when you're there, and everyone will try their best to help you. We'll hold down the fort at the Tang sect, so you don't have to worry too much." Treating Donga and helping her recover is more important and urgent. Hui Yuhao's eyes shifted between his companions. Shu Sansha and He Kai-tu nodded in his direction and made encouraging gestures and hand signs, while Jiang Nan Nan and Xiao Xiao remained silent with reddened eyes as they squatted down next to Wang Donga. Jiang Nan Nan said, "Give way, everyone. Xiao Xiao and I will help Donga clean her body. Yu Hao, you can go take a break. You can't be too exhausted. You can only take her away when you've had enough rest." "Thank you, fourth senior sister." Hui Yu Hao nodded. Bei Bei suddenly muttered irresolutely, "Yu Hao, how about this? You shouldn't go by yourself, since we're not very assured by your current state. Why don't we follow you, and when we're there, and if Donga's family can help her, then we will wait. If her family members can't do anything, then we will think of some other way." Warmth coursed through Hui Yuhao's stifled heart as he heard Bei Bei's words. He understood that his eldest senior brother was worried that Hui Yuhao would be mentally and psychologically affected if Donga couldn't be treated. "Thank you, Bei Bei. Don't worry, I will be strong. Donga's life is not in danger after she ingested the yearning heartbroken grass, while the Tang sect needs you guys back there to direct things. You guys don't have to follow me. I can do this by myself." The Tang sect had created quite a stir during this tournament. This was their best opportunity to expand and develop as much as they could. Furthermore, people like Nan Chocho and Gao Delu had joined the Tang sect, and arrangements had to be made for them when everyone returned. There were so many things they had to do, so Hui Yuhao couldn't affect the Tang sect's development because of his own interests. Bei Bei thought for a moment, then said, "Let's do it this way. Not all of us will follow you there. Sansha, you and Nan Nan will follow Yuhao to the Clear Sky sect. Taking care of Wang Donga will be more convenient with Nan Nan around. Everyone else will follow me back to the Tang sect." "All right, that's enough. If you keep pushing and rejecting, Yuhao, you won't be treating me like an elder brother." "All right." Hui Yuhao stared at Bei Bei's determined gaze and nodded in acknowledgement. The Tang sect was his home, and every single senior brother and senior sister had shown him care and concern as if they were family. Bei Bei's arrangement was also appropriate. He Kai-tu was a sole engineer, and he was a lot more important for the Tang sect's current development strategy. So tasking Shu Sansha and Jiang Nan Nan to follow Hui Yuhao was the most appropriate decision. 2 hours later, Elder Xian nagged Hui Yuhao and reminded him to take care of himself again and again before he led everyone else into the sky, and the company flew in the direction of Shrek Academy. Elder Xian was the master of Shrek Academy's Sea Gods Pavilion, and he had to bear immense pressure on his shoulders at this time. Shrek's 7 monsters, who represented the Tang sect in combat, and in addition, Shrek Academy's team members who represented the Academy, consisted of the Academy's elites, who possessed the greatest potential in the younger generation. Anything bad that happened to these children would be a huge blow to Shrek Academy. Nobody had expected the Sun Moon Empire would be so extreme when they came for the tournament. Nobody had expected that the Sun Moon Empire would use the tournament to snipe students from academies all over the continent, so that they could weaken the Doluo continent's 3 native empires, and so that they could weaken the 3 empires' Soul Master's strength and future. The other teams' situations were still unclear, and Elder Xian and the others had to return to Shrek Academy as quickly as possible so that they could receive first-hand intelligence, and so that they could take action based on whatever information they could obtain. The enormous explosion that had rocked Radiant City completely knocked the Sun Moon Empire off course, and sent their plans into disarray. Without discussing other things, the destruction of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, the illustrious Virtue Hall, and the countless soul tools that the Empire had prepared was painful enough for them. War was temporarily avoided, but that didn't mean war wouldn't come in the future. The Doluo continent's 3 native empires had to form an alliance and pressure the Sun Moon Empire, and they had to take this opportunity to do everything they could to save the students from those academies, who had been trapped in the Sun Moon Empire. Hui Yuhao was still carrying Wang Donga as they got back on the road, while Shu Sansha and Jiang Nan Nan followed by his side. Bei Bei and Shu Sansha had exchanged a few looks before they parted ways. The two of them were too familiar with each other, and there was nothing more that needed to be said for Shusansha to understand what Bei Bei was trying to convey. They activated their soul power and channeled their flying-type soul tools at full power as they tore through the clouds and flew rapidly through the sky. They were flying more than 1,000 meters above the ground toward the north. There was a lonesome and solitary figure, who was still standing there as she watched them leave. She didn't follow Shrek Academy's company back to the academy, and she didn't follow Hui Yuhao and the others to save Donga. She was just standing there and watching everyone depart. Wang Chua's eyes were full of desolation, and the corner of her mouth curled into a self-mocking smile. You are far more important to him than I am even after your death. It's time for me to return, as that is my world, after all. Wang Chua tapped her foot lightly on the ground as she bolted into the air. She had told Elder Xian that she wouldn't return with everyone to the academy, because she wanted to visit her home. Elder Xian knew that she was feeling a little despondent, so he didn't try too hard to keep her. He only told her that she should return to the academy as soon as possible after she returned home. But would she really go back? Shrek Academy was no longer a home to her, but instead a place of grief and sorrow. Wang Chua transformed into a golden beam of light as she leapt through the air and disappeared beyond the horizon like a shooting star. Hui Yuhao carried Wang Donga and flew through the sky almost without any rest at all, while Shusansha and Jiang Nan followed him quietly. They could both feel Hui Yuhao's urgent concern and his anxiety, and they also knew that no words of consolation could compare to simply accompanying him to reach their destination as quickly as possible. Shusansha insisted forcibly that they had to rest every 4 hours, and they were only allowed to continue traveling after having something to eat. Jiang Nan helped Hui Yuhao take care of Wang Donga. Wang Donga hardly expended any energy at all, because she was in her state of hibernation, while her vitals were normal and stable the entire time. Her life energy seemed even stronger than before, and everything about her couldn't be better, except for the fact that she wouldn't wake up. The state of Wang Donga's body didn't change at all over the next 2 days, and this calmed Hui Yuhao's turbulent emotions a little. Finally, the snow-capped mountain came into view. At the end, they had to climb into the clouds and up a steep and perilous mountain path. Hui Yuhao had only been here once, but his mighty spiritual power had allowed him to memorize the path up the mountain the last time he was here, and his spiritual power was a lot stronger than back then. He shared his spiritual detection with Shusansha and Jiang Nan as he led them swiftly up the mountain, and they arrived at the mountaintop in no time. Clear Sky Castle was still as it was before, and nothing much seemed to have changed. It also seemed especially calm and quiet at this moment. Right when Hui Yuhao and the others were walking towards the castle's main gate, the gate suddenly opened, and 2 rows of people streamed out. Niu Qian had a dark and gloomy look on his face as he and Tai Tan followed behind everyone else and walked out. Hui Yuhao heaved a sigh of relief when he saw them. His mind had been wandering a lot throughout their journey, and he had contemplated many things. He had even considered what he would do if the Clear Sky Castle's 2 lords weren't around. Hui Yuhao felt a lot more relaxed when he saw these 2 reclusive and incredibly powerful individuals, and even Wang Donga's biological uncle was present. Tai Tan strode towards Hui Yuhao. He didn't utter a single word as he took Wang Donga from his hands. Hui Yuhao was momentarily stunned as he watched Tai Tan turn back towards Clear Sky Castle with Wang Donga in his hands. Uncle Tai Tan, Donga. Niu Qian raised his hand to interrupt Hui Yuhao. He lowered his voice and said, "You don't have to say any more. We already know about what happened, and you don't need to ask how we found out. Donga followed you, but she has landed herself in such a situation. You're responsible for this. You may go. Donga needs a good rest, and we will take care of her." Niu Qian actually turned and walked back into the castle as he spoke. Hui Yuhao became incredibly worried and anxious as he took a few brisk steps forward and caught up to Niu Qian. "Uncle Niu Qian, when will Donga wake up? Is this happening to her because her old injury is acting up?" This video will end here.